Listen, if you were born anywhere after the year 2000, chances are you missed out on the golden age of trying to play video games with your friends. And everything that I'm about to say to you is probably going to sound just as confusing as the word floppy disk. My name is FJ, and you're familiar with us from over on Game with FJ. This here is the introduction, the welcome to AFK with FJ, the podcast. As the podcast where we step away from the keyboard and we start talking gaming topics, both social and gaming in itself, the culture, what's going on in the games, what's the new meta, and all sorts of things. So now come on down and let's talk video games. Listen, today I want to talk to you guys about the evolution of multiplayer gaming. There has been such a huge shift in the last decade, especially in how we play video games with our friends. And it is very different today to how it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. Now, you'd all be familiar with things like Mario Party or Super Smash Bros., the original couch party games, right? Now, these were the first forays into multiplayer gaming when you would come around, grab your Nintendo 64 and play these games that were janky as, but so much fun. They're a really, really awesome opportunity to enjoy video games together rather than alone. Because up until that point, you had Zelda, Mario, all your Tetrises, your Pac-Mans, all these games that you could only play alone as one person. And trying to play video games together at that point was just a matter of watching the one person play until they died. And then you got to swap to the next player. But not everybody's too keen for that. It's functional, but usually you get one player who's really good at what they're doing and they just never go down. It becomes really annoying for everybody else. So let's talk about it. Multiplayer games way back when started as just being local games. You could exclusively play them if you had multiple controllers on the one device. Now, that doesn't really work for us young folk nowadays because everybody's wanting to play online with all their multiple friends. But back in the day, that's what you had to do. Next step up from that then became LAN party. And you're sitting here going, what the heck is a LAN party? Well, I'll break it down for you. LAN means local area network. Now, a lot of you guys don't have to worry about this anymore because the majority of games run on the World Wide Web. They run on the internet. You don't have to care about your local network because you've got the global network. But in an IT terminology, LAN is basically all of your devices are currently on the same Wi-Fi being able to communicate with each other. And way back when, that local area network had to be wired. So what you had was people rocking up to their mates' places, bringing their Xboxes, their PlayStations, their consoles, and then you would wire the consoles together so that the consoles ran on a central network. And you'd have like 3-4 TVs set up with like 16 mates just playing large maps of Halo and Call of Duty all against each other. And it was a vibe and a half. I remember cycling to my mate's place with my backpack and my Xbox in there. I used to like bubble wrap it in hoodies because that's how you used to have to play these multiplayer games. It was the only way you could do it. Then when the technology finally caught up, you started to experience these online lobbies, which is really exciting, but it still was nowhere near what we had today. You were still looking at something like Halo or Call of Duty. It was still games of only, say, 4 to 8 players. The only difference was you now weren't playing with the people in the same room as you were playing with people online, which is this really exciting shift because it meant that you could still play with your mates the way you did a LAN party in this very small and intimate group, but you were doing it digitally. Now that started to change dramatically with the expansion of open world and MMOs. Early 2000s, all you had to experience something similar to this was stuff like Club Penguin. That was the biggest sort of MMO that we could get our hands on. Things like that, or even Adventure Quest World, a great game that I still think about very fondly. Those games allowed you to start mingling with larger groups of people, but it was still small because the ability to build large servers wasn't really huge at that point. As we shift into the last sort of decade and a half, we started seeing these much larger games starting to come up. World of Warcraft, RuneScape being the evolutions of games like Adventure Quest Worlds started to create the building blocks of these new worlds. Then you had games like Ark, Rust coming into play. PUBG, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, became the first massive, massive online world. And that's where we start to see the shift into what we have today, which is these mega, mega online championships where you're playing against hundreds of players, yet you're still playing against different players every single game. And it's wild. That was the introduction of Battle Royale, this new game mode which just brought with it such chaos and social calamity. See, Battle Royales brought you this whole new experience, wherein you jump into a game. And yes, your team would still be small. You'd have 3 or 4 people with you. But then you were going up against 60 to 100 people. Call of Duty never had that. None of these Halos or anything had that. Even Halo, which had the big map battles, still only ran at about 16 to 32 players, if I'm not mistaken. Battle Royales changed the game completely and smashed in so much more sociability. Sociability? Is that the right word? Sociability. I don't even know how you pronounce that, but you know what I mean. See, when you're playing COD or Halo in an online lobby, there's very little need to communicate because the games are just go out, eliminate players, get eliminated yourself, respawn immediately, keep going until you hit 50 points. There's no need for communication because there's no strategy. These new multiplayer games, these battle royales, change that. No longer do you not have to talk to people. If you're playing one of these games, you load in. Now you're in there for 10 to 15 minutes. You've got one life. You need to make sure that you're strategizing with your team to be on the ball, on top of your enemies, getting everything that you need done on point. Now, yes, you still have your silent Rambo types who manage to 1v3 every fight that I get into, but for the majority of the time, you have to be communicating with your teammates, figure out where you're going to position yourselves to get the drop on the enemy squads. And that's where you start to look at these new challenges of sociability in the online gaming space, because you actually have to talk to people. See, online lobbies brought with them all these new challenges on how to maneuver the social scape. Yes, for the last decade to 2 decades, we've been arguably engaging with strangers online, but it was in much more intimate manners. When you found someone new online, you tended to build bonds, and it was only 1 or 2 people. These people that you would start to develop relationships with, friendships with, and there was still that close, small, intimate environment. Same way that you would have at a school, wherein you only have a limited cohort of people to be engaging with. These new games have expanded that so greatly, and they've emphasized the risks of anonymity. They have emphasized the risks of anonymity within these spaces. It's always been an issue wherein if you are potentially a kid or something and you're talking to people online, you have no idea if the person you're talking to is an adult or a child like you, whether they live far away, whether they're in your neighborhood. They could be convicted of a crime, all these things. These are the potential downsides that have always been in place with the anonymity of online gaming and online community. And these new social environments heighten those to the max, in all honesty. See, it's funny to think about because really, you think about video games, you think about unwinding, you go, where's the harm, right? You know, you'd be a prankster or a bit of a troll online because at the end of the day, nobody really knows who you are. There's this real struggle that comes with anonymity online because we'd all be familiar with the high school, primary school bully in general. You know, there's somebody who picks on you a bit, gives them a bit of power, makes them feel like they're in control. Now that's, pretty gosh darn terrible when it's happening face to face. But when it's happening face to face, there's still a sense of, what's the word? Accountability? See, because at the end of the day, you know who's bullying you. And typically, there are ways that you can, dob that person in to be like, hey, this person's being a little bit of a troll. Can we get this dealt with? And you can. Online, all a troll has to do is just unplug their router and boom, they're gone. You're never going to find them. They're off in the wind, away from you, away from any chance of you getting back at them. And it's crazy to think about. Honestly, crazy to think about. Because it opens up this whole new realm of possibility for people to really get under your skin in a way that you never thought was possible. And that in itself is so dangerous. But now it sounds like I'm saying that all this is danger. No, not in the slightest. But it certainly is very tricky maneuvering the new environment. See, when you're engaging with these people online, and this has been a problem forever, you can quickly form social bonds with people that you never knew. Now, I stream. A lot of you guys would know that because you're probably coming from the stream and finding this new podcast. One of my biggest difficulties as a streamer is that there's a lot of people that I speak to regularly because they pop in often. And I need to remind myself, I've never actually met these people. I've never actually, had a sit down, had a cup of coffee with them. I don't know what they look like. I don't know how old half of them are. I don't even know their real name because these are all security measures and safety precautions I put in place for myself and themselves, where I don't want to know the information because there's a chance that having the information out there could cause harm to either party. And the thing is, a lot of these people I'm starting to feel really close to. I want to protect them. I want to support them. I want to be the same way I would be with one of my friends. And it's very easy for me to forget I don't know these people. And even further than that, it's easy to forget that I don't know how old these guys are. Now, I'm almost 30, and I work on what I do from the perspective of social work. I want to be helping young people maneuver different circumstances online to make sure that they're protected. There were too many people abusing power in the digital sense and taking advantage of minors and all these sorts of things. And this is why I do what I do, to try and help young people understand how to both manage their interactions with one another and improve social situations and all sorts of things, as well as manage these online environments. And I find myself constantly having to question, am I doing things correctly? Am I behaving appropriately? Because again, I'm sitting in this room by myself, hearing voices in my headset or text on screen. I have very little information to give me the full context of who I'm talking to. And the fact that it's not safe for people to be sharing their information with me makes it even worse. And that's this really interesting thing that comes with the importance of online safety. Because if you're out here sharing information with you and creating these bonds with folks, you're also creating this opportunity for somebody to misplace your trust and cause harm to you, And that's where it's really important to have a keen sense of cyber safety. Because if you are responsible and you are safe with your engagements online, you can very easily get insane benefits from communicating and engaging with other people. See, I've met other streamers that I've done collabs with, and we've been able to broaden our horizons and our scopes of content because we've been able to work together. I've met new people who have become very good friends with my very good friends, and I wouldn't have had those opportunities if not for the digital communications and connection. So having that safety can be absolutely a wealth of abundance. Wealth of abundance, abundance of wealth. And it is so important to be able to have those things. It's naive of us to think that young people and ourselves are exclusively meeting people in real life nowadays. The World Wide Web, all these communication networks made it so easy for us to be able to engage with one another. It is naive to think that we wouldn't use that. But the anonymity and all these other dangers create a need for us to engage with those environments in a safe way. So how do we do that? How do we tackle that? Honestly, in my opinion, the number one thing, as I've already technically said to you guys, is set clear boundaries, and set expectations when playing games. We'll start here. Unpopular opinion. Video games are rated for a reason. There are video games that 6-year-olds shouldn't be playing. Frankly, Fortnite is a gun game. And though you aren't getting blood splatters and insane amounts of gore, it's still a violent video game that's rated for about PG-13 plus. Now, the majority of people I play Fortnite with are about 6 to 11 or 6 to 12, because that's the people that play Fortnite. And I know that sounds really sus, but truth be told, I try to make sure that most of the people that I'm gaming with are fully aware of my age. And most of the time, I try to make sure that they're making their parents aware of my age so that they can create healthy and appropriate boundaries, because that is paramount. Truth be told, those games, right? If you're letting your kids play Fortnite at 6 to 12 years old or anywhere around there, it's your own decision as a parent, as a guardian, but you need to make sure that you're supplying appropriate education then for your young one. See, video games and their rating seem to be pushing the limits nowadays in terms of what we're allowing young people to play. And our biggest issue is setting boundaries of education wherein a young person knows you shouldn't solve your problems with violence the way that you might in a video game. Because you know what? Even Minecraft, I've run out of food. Let's kill a cow, take its meat, cook the food. Now, that's basic agricultural principle. But I mean, you can do the same thing with villages. Offing the guy down at your local supermarket, not a good idea. disposing of the villager in Minecraft can be tactically advisable. But again, there's a difference between reality and video game. And this is something that, you need to make sure that you're communicating to your young people about so that they have these appropriate understandings of their actions so they don't hurt people unintentionally due to miseducation. Video games don't cause violence. Miseducation, a lack of education, causes violence because people are exposed to things that they don't understand and then they're taught these negative things. So let's talk about violence. No. Let's not talk about violence. That's not the point of this podcast. Let's talk about establishing clear boundaries and expectations when playing online games. First boundary you're setting is the game age appropriate? And if it's not age appropriate, have you had the appropriate discussions with your young person to be able to ascertain that they are ready for this type of game and that they won't let the game create some kind of ill favor or ill behavior, bad behavior, right? Boundary number 2, figure out based upon the age of your child whether or not you're comfortable with them talking to people online. Now, a lot of games will have family and parental controls that you can install. So that makes it really easy to make sure that your kid isn't able to talk to anyone else online unless they're people that you want them talking to. That is important. Now, if you're not going to set those up because you want to allow your child to be talking to people, which honestly, at a certain age, I think is valuable, you should allow your young people to start engaging with people online so that they can build community and have the support networks within this pastime because it's only human. If you're going to start doing that, option 1, once again, education. Make sure that your young person understands setting their own boundaries. Don't give out personal information. Don't talk about your age. Don't talk about where you live. Don't talk about what school you go to. Anything that can really tie back to who you are, right? Because that's going to create the opportunity for somebody to misuse that information if they are a bad person. And not everyone online is a bad person, but it is always safe to assume guilty until proven innocent. I'm real sorry. Online legal system isn't quite like the American one. That way, you're creating these safety pockets. Now, with what I do, I engage with a lot of young people online. I tell young people, if they're going to be engaging with me, 1, don't tell me anything about them. Now, a few of them will tell me stuff before I have the opportunity to stop them. So it becomes a bit tricky. But the second point is make sure that your parents are aware of what you're doing. And that's something that I encourage often. I'm like, hey, are your parents cool with this? Are you okay? Is this fine? I've had a few kids where I really thought that they were getting themselves thrown in the deep end, where I'm on stream and I'm got these live situations. And then these young people are jumping in and they're talking and whatnot. I'm like, yo, is your parent fine with that? And then they drag their parent over and their parent's like, that's cool. I'm like, neat, Each family needs their own healthy boundaries and they have to be healthy boundaries. You can't be completely restricting your child, right? And I've emphasized it already, but the biggest factor for yourself as a young person or an adult or a parent is education. Be aware of your situation and when enough is enough. Teach your kids that if the person that they're gaming with starts swearing a lot, talking about drugs or inappropriate materials, make sure that they know to set their own boundaries and mute that person. Disconnect from that person because it's not a safe environment to be in. Now, we talked about it already with providing security for your own personal information. Those kind of situations is a really good way to know those kind of people you probably shouldn't be engaging with and giving personal information. Because as we said with misuse, you can also find scammers online who might want to rob you, mistreat you, right? There are so many issues. Social opportunities online also give you a lot of chances to learn and self-educate on how to effectively maneuver and resolve a lot of the conflict that comes from some of these negative situations that we talked about as well. See, if you're really thinking about it, the type of social skills the young person can develop online is insane because they're actually being forced to talk to many people of different backgrounds and different social styles. That means that overexposure to different people means that they learn how to deal with different people. Now, if you're in a school of, say, 100 people, you might only talk to 5, 10 of those people on a regular basis. You start to build your entire social awareness around those 4, 5 to 10 people. Now, imagine the amount of extra people you engage with in an online sense. You start to very quickly learn how to deal with multiple different types of personalities. And you learn to deal with conflict from different types of personalities as well. Though, Conflict management is something incredibly difficult for us to deal with just on a human level, let alone at a teenage level or an online level. See, the anonymity of online games brings with it that troll factor. And whereas conflict management can be a bit easier in person, because if you put someone in their place, they can't hide behind anything. They're in front of you, they're in their place. But online, as we said before, people can hide, people can run away. So it creates this real opportunity for differing types of conflict resolution. Because a lot of people aren't just going to take no for an answer initially. They're not going to take stop and stop. So there are these really unique opportunities for that. And the roles that we play within our young people's lives as educators and guides throughout these environments is paramount. Our parents are designed to help build us up and prepare us to tackle challenges on our own. So creating a healthy balance of education, boundary, and freedom is so important. These environments are scary and they're new. I was born in the late 90s, yet I still had to learn some of these things. I was around for LAN parties. I was around for Mario Kart. You know, imagine your parent born 20 years before that. They don't even know Mario Kart. Now you're telling them that you're talking to some 9-year-old boy in India who just happens to be able to smash at Fortnite and is kicking your butt. Your parents going to sit there and go, what do you mean you're playing against some kid in India? I used to have to play ball with the kids down the street. You're playing Fortnite with a kid in India? It's foreign to most parents. Now, younger parents starting to raise kids who were only born, say, early 90s, they have had an opportunity to be exposed to some of this new stuff. So we're starting to maneuver some of these parental issues a lot more easily with a lot more fluidity. But there's a lot of these situations where the question still stands. Lots of people don't know what's going on. Parents don't know everything about the digital realm because they're not on the digital realm. They're out with 9 till 5 jobs. So parents, don't restrict your kids. Don't just hold them back altogether because you don't understand it. Get educated. Watch your YouTube videos. I know you know how to do that. Hop on Facebook, but don't listen to your crazy Aunt Karen who thinks that online games are like Pizzagate or whatever. You know, it was an inside job. Bush did it. That sort of stuff. That is not the person to be getting your information from. What you want to be doing is going to reputable sources, and YouTube is great for this. Learn how to help your young people maneuver these environments, because if you help them pave the way, learn how to navigate these environments, you're going to be opening up a world of education and opportunity for them. I have had some really interesting interactions with young folk. I've helped people with their homework. I've helped people maneuver how to deal with bullies. I've helped people do a lot of things I never thought I'd have the opportunity to do again since I left doing youth work. And it is exciting to see the positivity that we can create using online spaces. But the online spaces have to be maneuvered correctly. You know what? That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking on this. This is my opinion. Keep in mind, this is mostly just my opinions, my thoughts on the topic. I could be wrong. I'm not a licensed psychologist. But it is very exciting to think about the world that we've come from to the world that we are today. From having to sit on the couch playing Mario Kart together or taking turns when somebody falls off a cliff in Tomb Raider. My goodness, those were good days. Having to take turns playing the game because there were only one player. It's wild. Nowadays, having access to so many people all at the same time, all at our fingertips, and getting angry when we have to wait more than a minute to find other folks to play with. It is crazy. Those risks and dangers that come with that and the opportunities, you gotta try and be educating yourself and the people around you to have the safest and most amazing time online. Because there is no point restricting yourself from it, but there is every point in making sure that you set appropriate boundaries and watch your way through it, which is so good. My opinion, more digital cyber safety needs to be taught to our young folks, because our young folks need to be able to maneuver these environments safe, because these environments are going to be what's going to make our young folks the absolute pinnacles and pioneers of our futures. We need young people engaging with other young people, learning things they never would have understood before, and growing, shaping their own futures in ways that we never could have dreamt. And it is so exciting to see. So guys, let me know, what are your experiences with the online scape? Have you had negative experiences in games like Warzone, where you've got proximity chat and you can have some really interesting and uninvited interactions? Do you have experience with managing conflict well? I would love to hear about it in the comments. Let me know. And also, let me know if you guys have anything that you want me to talk about. Today, we've talked about the history of multiplayer gaming, as well as the opportunities and risks that come from online interactions. And I would love to know, is there something that you'd like us to chat about? Until then, I've been FJ, and this is AFK with FJ, the podcast run by Game with FJ. I've got to shorten that. I'll figure it out. But God bless you guys. Be safe out there. Having an amazing, amazing time. And I'll catch you on the next one.